Hello, Bill Molyneux here with another scenario from my French Indian War board game volume 1, featuring artwork picked out by Fort Ticonderoga and their staff. So, game number 7 is the Battle and Siege of Fort William Henry. This is a big game. This features optional scenarios. So, I think I'm going to play Scenario 1, where there are no reinforcements for Colonel Monroe, and General Webb hangs out at Fort Edward, as was done historically. So we have the map here, and of course we have Fort William Henry. Lake George is out here. Our provincial fortified camp is here. Our French gunworks and all, and then our French throughout here. So I'm doing the video of the map without counters on it to give you an idea of how it looks without the counters. And then we have our swampy ground. So I'm going to pause the camera, set the game up. I hope you might, enjoy the last of the Mohicans Fort William Henry scenario. As far as I know, this is the only game of Fort William Henry. Well, we have the game set up. So, this is our situation. We have Colonel Monroe with our provincial unit and a line unit. Their heavy gun. One counter representing the heavy gun. Over in the fortified camp, we have a provincial and a light gun. And then through here, the natives had to set up here and here. I have that pre-done. We have our woods runners out here, our coup de bras, French milice, French Marines, line infantry, Colonel Monroe. Two heavy our siege guns. And the siege guns could have been placed anywhere along the entrenchment area. And in 10 turns, the French have to occupy Fort William Henry. So, that's our scenario. Now, there's a couple pages in the rule book for this. Webb to the rescue. General Webb is rushing to rescue to Fort William Henry. And there's rangers that will appear in the woods at some point. Provincials on the road, line troops, and a light gun and line troops. But we're not playing that scenario. And what I'll probably do is play that scenario at another time. So, the French are the first players, and I have 10 turns as a French to take out Fort William Henry. And we're going to be using siege cannons in this scenario, which haven't been used before. So, the first thing we do is we do our movement. And I'm going to 1, 2, 3. We have the woods movement of 3 for the Native Americans. And we're going to attack this entrenchment area. But rather than take fire from multiple points, we will do it that way. So, I'm not going to bother coming out here in the open. I'm going to try shelling Fort William Henry. So, defensive fire, this gun's going to fire at this natives that's coming up. And it needs a 1 through 6. And they rolled an 8. So, whoever is running that artillery piece should be yelled at. And then the big siege gun, or the artillery at Fort William Henry, is going to fire 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a range modifier. First, it's 2 because of the entrenchments, the abattis and all that Montcalm has set up for his fortifications. So that is a 2 off that 7. So 1 through 7 And then we have, so it's a 5, and then another drop because of range. Brings it down to a 4. So here we go, 1 through 4. And it actually rolled a 2. So the French, right off the bat, has a reduced artillery piece. Okay, well, that's sort of depressing for us people that want the French to win, but if you're British, that's a great thing. So Colonel Monroe's gunners did well. All right, we're attacking a 1 through 4 here, and rolled a 2. The light gun has been hit, and it fails its morale. So it's out here in the open, but prior to that, that's a miss. And I rolled another hit here. Before it ran away, we needed a test to have them fire on it. So the light gun is gone. And this native scored the hit. So it's moved into the abattis. And I forgot, the abattis, you don't have to retreat. When you have defenses, may ignore retreat rolls for all units. So I got to pay attention to my own rules, don't I? So the British have lost their light gun, and their fortified camp is being overrun by natives. Now it's the British offensive movement phase, and that provincial unit here, he's going to just stay where he's at for now, and hopefully the native won't get him. And I can't do much in the fort. We're just sitting there. So here we go. The French gun here is a 5, 4, and then 2 more. It'll be a 1 or a 2 to hit that heavy gun. And can't believe it. Just so you know, I'm not cheating as the French. We rolled a 1. So Colonel Monroe's guns at Fort William Henry have already been damaged. His other gun is firing, the other French gun, and unfortunately due to range and the fort's fortification, a 6 is a fail. Well, that's that. We're going to have our native attack there, and it scores a hit. This provincial has been knocked out. Going to see what happens. It fails its morale. It's out of there, and he advances. He does not advance. This was Native American defensive fire. So that's where we're at. Going to the next turn. At this point, we'll have the artillery. I don't know if I want to go to turn 2 with the French. No, they're doing good here. So and we're going to try to eliminate the if I lose 5 French units, the French lose also. So I can't take a lot of casualties out here. Colonel Monroe's given the order for that gun to fire. And Colonel Monroe, he inspired his troops by rolling a 1. And they have knocked out one of the French heavy guns. Attacking this fort with a +2 modifier is going to be very hard to do with my infantry. I really want to bombard it, so losing one of the guns really is frustrating. This provincial fires and misses. So our French Marines, and they miss, and our Native Americans, they hit. So the fortified camp is totally gone, and our natives can advance after combat. So our large cannon on the French side, -7, -2 because we're firing on a fort, and another one for range, 1 through 4, and it's a leaner it's called, and I rolled a 3. So the heavy gun is gone. Well, this is bad. So we are down to Colonel Monroe, his provincials, and his line infantry. But that's not an easy fort to take. Native Americans do not get their double roll on there. So let's see what happens. It is the British turn to move. And I really don't have much to do here. I'll flip-flop my provincials with my line, and I'm going to put Colonel Monroe with the line infantry, so they're hit with an 80% chance. And unfortunately, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be firing our heavy siege gun. That 1 through 7 drops by 3 because of range and the fort. And I rolled a 2. While the French are really doing well. Now in a fort, we do not have to worry about morale checks. So our line unit's been damaged here. We're going to check and see what happens. With Colonel Monroe is fine. We rolled the leader loss number, and he has no issues. But right now, the siege of Fort William Henry, losing that heavy gun really is frustrating, but we'll continue on and move on to turn 3. So, as the French, I think my heavy siege gun, I'm going to fall back. And, I'm just going to use my heavy siege gun. Colonel Monroe and his line troops and provincials can't do a darn thing, but I failed to roll the hit number. So, I'm at turn 4 now, and I'm going to risk going to turn 4 and just firing my siege gun again, and I rolled a 7, and of course nothing happens here. And then in the second phase, the siege gun gets to fire again. And we rolled a 5, which is a miss. Well, alright, we're going into turn 6. And me trying to roll 1 through 4s to kill him off and kill this off is not working. So we're going to have to call out an all-out assault. And we're going to send in, we're going to get the line infantry up here and prepare for an attack. We'll send our natives. I guess we're going to send everything in and see what happens. And I still have line of sight, so my gun will be firing, but first we have our defensive fire. Provincial unit fires and scores a hit on this native with a 2, which is now morale check 1, 2, or 3, and they passed with a 2. Colonel Monroe is going to take that native out, and he does. It's been damaged, and a 1, 2, or 3 to hold, and they failed, so they're running back. So now it's the French phase. The artillery piece is firing 1 through 4. They roll a 10. Those French gunners are doing terrible. Our natives here, they need a 1, and they failed. And those natives need a 1 through 4, and they actually scored a hit. So the natives actually scored a hit, even with the modifiers of the fort. And Colonel Monroe rolls a 2. And historically, Colonel Monroe lives through the battle and siege of Fort William Henry. He dies from, some say, a stroke several months later. And he also had no children. And there were no two girls at the fort. A lot of that is all fun and fiction. But we're working on a war game and not doing a book review. So we'll continue on. So our natives have taken this fort out, that section, and we're going into turn 7. This provincial is going to move to there, and then this artillery piece will fire on it and fails to hit. Now we go to turn 7. Trying to run the game and talk on the video and keep everything straight sometimes. I may make a mistake here and there. And I only have 3 turns as the French to kill him off. So I got to get motivated here. It's not reduced, so it's going to take 2 hits. These natives are going to need 1s to hit that fort. So we're going to... I don't want to block line of sight for the artillery piece, but we're going to just... I guess I'm sending in what I can send in, and Colonel Monroe, or Montcalm, is gone in to give the bonus die roll. So the provincials see Montcalm, and they're going to shoot there with a 9, and they miss. So my siege gun can still fire on there. They're not in the way. And thank God they finally hit something with a 2. So the provincials are being worn down. And now we'll attack with our natives with a 10. This native will attack, and it needs a 4, and it rolls a 3. So Colonel Monroe will come in, or Colonel Monroe is gone, his entire force. The French lost 1 heavy gun, but they did take several casualties with their Native Americans, and it took me basically 8 of the 10 turns for the French to do that. Now, it was a interesting, fun game, and it's a great way to teach someone about the battle and the siege of Fort William Henry, August 8, 1757. Currently, their gift shop may or may not carry the French Indian War Board Game Volume 1. We will see what happens. And don't forget, the artwork was picked out by Fort Ticonderoga and their staff. So, this game would play totally different when you add 1 ranger, 2 provincials, 2 line units, a line unit and a light gun, and a general web leader, all appearing on this side of the table over a few different turns, unspecified. And as far as I know, this is actually the only Fort William Henry game out there. And I'm pretty proud of this, pretty happy how it plays. It's historically accurate. And yes, it's very difficult for the British to kill 5 units. But they could hold out for 10 turns. And then with the optional rules, it really becomes a slug match. Well, that's it for now. French Indian War Board Game Volume 1, Battle of Siege of Fort William Henry, and Fast Play War Games, Adventure Game Source at Superior Print on Demand. Thank you. Stay safe, be kind, be courteous. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think.